why do you think that the Minister of Spatial Planning was the first to adopt these ideas?
Well, I don't know why, but I know that as a result of that, the Olympic Games is mentioned in the structural vision for Randstad 24.
Yeah, yeah. Also, of course, you could say that the Ministry of Sports or economic, there's also a lot of economic consequences and so on, and the ambitions with Olympic Games. But the Ministry of Spatial Planning said, well, if we take this idea serious, it's so huge in its programmatic aspects. An Olympic village, 50 hectares. A total Olympic program, 500 to 600 hectares of newly developed areas. A lot of infrastructure attached to these ideas might result in new airports, might result in new light rails, might result in new high-speed train things. So there are a lot of spatial implications, or potentials, challenges, whatever you like to call it, that are connected to organizing Olympic Games. So that's why the Ministry of Spatial Planning liked the idea. Of course, they had things already going on with developing their national documents. And they said, okay, let's adopt this idea. We give it to Twijnstra and Nieuwegracht, which is a design bureau and consultancy to organize a set of workshops with all kinds of professionals. I was also there. And they asked me also to contribute at the beginning to think about, okay, what should we do in these kinds of workshops? And they developed this sketchbooks. You can see that there's also a CD-ROM with a lot of background information about Olympic Games in the world and the spatial aspects and conditions and so on, a lot. And well, so the answer to this question, the question of the urban program, it's the biggest sports event in the world, spatially, functionally, logistically. That's why the Ministry of Spatial Planning was involved real soon. Together with one, and I already did some work on this with some of the students, the graduation students in our faculty, and one of them, Marloes Huismans, perhaps you remember her. She developed a very nice typology of the spatial elements that are attached to organizing Olympic Games. And she, I'm repeating her work now, but we developed it together, of course, said, okay, first there's these big stadiums, not only the athletic stadium, also the baseball stadium. So there are a few big stadiums needed as a competition hall. Second one is what she referred to as complexes, like the tennis complex or the hockey complex, where there are a lot of fields and also a main center. You recognize where this is? It's Wimbledon, in London. It's an old picture, Herman. Why? Yeah, very good. There's now a roof over here at the new stadium. This was in London, you know, it's very traditional Wimbledon. It was a long fight before they had overdecked covered. So complex, as you can see that the demand spatially is huge for such a complex. The third element is a landscape. There are some sports that really have set conditions for the landscape, like also here in England. This is in England where the Olympic rowing track of 2012 will be. But it's also true for horse riding, for cycling, for the marathon. There's much bigger landscapes involved than just a small indoor hall. That's the fourth competition element, it's the indoor hall. But there are, of course, a lot more facilities. And one of them relates to her. It's one of the most famous Dutch athletes we have. It's an Olympic champion already, I think, in 3 Olympics. Do we know her, Edward?
Not by name, but by face, yes.
Yes? You know which sport she does? Herman, tricky question for you. I think you will know now.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, yeah.
That's why.
It's Esther Vergeer.
Oh, yes.
And she's a Paralympic athlete. And also, when you bid for organizing the Olympics, you also bid for the Paralympics. And Paralympics, of course, have different requirements of accessibility, and there's also a societal, social ambition for better integration of the Paralympians, of impaired people in society. So this and also has to deal with the accessibility, for example, of vehicles, of infrastructure, of transport. So that's The Olympic Committee also asks from organizing cities to think about the main venue, so the center of the Olympics. This is the proposal for London, some drawings, and you see also one of the already. You can see from such a map that there are going to be problems after the Olympics. And if you take a look at these huge infrastructures, how will they be used if there are not these hundreds of thousands of people going to this stadium? So the main venue is something that the IOC demands from the organizing country, organizing city, that there is a center of the Olympics. And you know, the Olympic Village is well known. This is a picture that's from Beijing. And this means a new city district, like 15,000 people need to be sleeping there in these weeks, and the Olympics, and afterwards usually you see nowadays that it's just a normal housing district. There's a lot of infrastructure needed for the media. The media center, this is the well-known, where is it? Barcelona, the Calatrava design for the media center. But it's not just one tower, of course, it's a whole bunch of facilities that is attached to the games. What is also required from the IOC for a country organizing Olympic Games is hotel accommodation. And what do we see here? It was in the port of Piraeus, near the city of Athens, that there were a lot of flexible hotel accommodations, namely boats. You see the Queen Mary, a world-famous boat, so there were a lot of, very expensive to sleep by the way, but there were a lot of big boats where I think this is a hotel on water, you could say. And so they thought about, okay, well, Athens thought about how to get extra hotel accommodation, but yeah, afterwards, after the games, why would we need hundreds and hundreds of thousands of beds? Okay, Athens, it's a city for tourism, but not that much. So they thought about flexible ways of hotel accommodation. For example, by means of boats. But there's still more thinking about the programmatic aspects of Olympic Games. Because coming towards the Olympics, the city, here for example, the city of Beijing, they developed also a kind of logo around it, a culture logo of Beijing. You have to develop a cultural program, not for 3 weeks, no, but for 4 years. Every year there were big events, there are big events connected to the Olympic Games to show the cultural program. This is what the IOC wants, one of their ambitions to deal with the cultural aspects of the country. So events, they take place in cities and so on. And as you might know from the 2008 European Championships, I don't know if you all saw it or whether you were already here in the Netherlands, but in whole Europe you could see that the experience economy is a real thing. So of course you had the football stadium where the people were in the stadium and having a good time or a bad time, depends on the outcome of the match. But in the cities, and look, this is the city of Bern, and here this is in Berlin. So both in the cities where the match was played, here in Bern, but also in the home cities of countries, there was a lot of things going on. So can you imagine Olympic Games in the Netherlands for 3 weeks having Queen's Day for 3 weeks? But not only Queen's Day, it's also the Vierdaagse of Nijmegen, it's also the Marathon of Rotterdam. So this is going to be like that. So this has a big impact on cities and also on squares and so on. So there's well, some people said experience economy doesn't exist, but this shows you that it does, because it's directly related to sport, but not to the location where the sport event is itself. It's somewhere else in the city.